In the face of an impending apocalypse, Shao Ran met a tragic fate at the hands of his wife's family, who ruthlessly murdered him for sustenance. It was only in his final moments that he discovered the heart-wrenching truth. His son was not his biological child, and he had merely been a pitiful pawn in their game. However, fate granted him a second chance. He was reborn 3 months prior to the catastrophe, endowed with a vast, mysterious space of his own. Determined to seize the opportunity, he first resolved to divorce his treacherous wife, strike it rich by winning the lottery, and then plunge into the stock market, amassing billions. He would construct a secure haven stocked with ample supplies. In this lifetime, he vowed to exact a merciless revenge on his ex-wife and her family, shedding the shackles of his previous servitude. Chapter 1. Rebirth before the apocalypse. Shao Ran jolted upright in bed, gasping for breath, beads of cold sweat cascading down his forehead. He had experienced an extraordinarily vivid dream. In this dream, the world was besieged by an unrelenting hailstorm, with hailstones the size of ping-pong balls shattering ordinary glass with ease, including car windows. The thick fog rendered it nearly impossible for anyone to venture outside, while temperatures plummeted to a bone-chilling -10 degrees Celsius, an inconceivable scenario for June. On the 4th day, the power grid collapsed, leading to countless fatalities due to the freezing conditions. To make matters worse, the hail was laced with a deadly toxin. Any liquid that came into contact with the hail proved fatal to plants and contaminated water sources, causing intense suffering for those who ingested even a small amount, and instant death for those who consumed it in greater quantities. Humanity found itself trapped, reduced to cannibalism as food and clean water dwindled. In a cruel twist of fate, Shao Ran was ambushed by his wife's family, who dismembered him while he was still alive. No, this was not a mere dream. Clutching his head, he recalled the harrowing 15 days of the apocalypse with stunning clarity. Every agonizing detail etched into his memory, especially the excruciating pain of his own dismemberment. There is only one explanation. I have been reborn. Indeed, it is now. He glanced at his phone, the date glaring back at him. March 1st. When was the apocalypse destined to strike? June 1st. This date was seared into his memory, as he had planned to take his son to the amusement park that day, only to be struck by a hailstone upon stepping outside, leaving him questioning his very existence. This meant he had a full 3 months before the impending disaster. I must accumulate wealth, gather enough provisions to sustain me for a lifetime, and construct a secure shelter to withstand the hail and deter those who would seek to seize it. How to amass wealth? It was quite simple. For Shao Ran had returned with the foresight of the stock market's trajectory over the next 3 months, an endeavor he had long pursued as a hobby, analyzing market trends and monitoring stocks. But where would he procure the initial capital? The lottery. He distinctly remembered the winning numbers for the next lottery draw, having spent a mere 2 yuan on a ticket. He had matched 5 digits, leaving a lasting impression on him, especially with the prize pool swelling to 2.5 billion. Purchasing 100 tickets would guarantee him the grand prize. With capital secured and the trajectory of promising stocks clear, making money would be a breeze. But first and foremost, I must divorce. Shao Ran's gaze hardened. In his previous life, not only had he been consumed by his wife's family, but he had also been burdened with an earth-shattering revelation from his wife before his demise. His son was not his biological offspring. He could not rest in peace. You wretched woman! Shao Ran clenched his fists, a wild glint in his eyes. He was determined to seek vengeance. I will not allow you and your family to escape unscathed. An orphan by circumstance, he had worked diligently to earn a place at university and secured a position at a respectable company. It was during this time that he met his wife, Zheng Wan, a sweet-natured nurse with retired parents who had a modest pension and a younger brother still in university. Their relationship blossomed rapidly, and under Zheng Wan's coaxing, he agreed to join her family as a son-in-law, eager for the warmth of a family he had longed for. However, after their marriage, Zheng Wan's demeanor turned cold, and her family treated him poorly. Yet, when she became pregnant, he was blissfully absorbed in the joy of fatherhood, conveniently overlooking their hostility. He devoted himself wholeheartedly to parenting, changing diapers and preparing formula in the dead of night, while in Zheng's household, he was merely a son-in-law masquerading as a servant. The most absurd part? His entire salary was surrendered to them, leaving him with a paltry allowance of merely 200 yuan a month, while his brother-in-law, Zheng Gang, squandered lavishly during his studies, and failed to maintain any job post-graduation, often dining at restaurants with his girlfriend using Shao Ran's hard-earned money. What infuriated Shao Ran the most was the realization that the son he had nurtured for 3 years, pouring his heart and soul into, was not his own. He was merely a pitiful, laughable substitute. The wealth I accumulate from now on, you shall never touch. The supplies I stockpile, you will only be able to gaze upon, not a crumb shall I spare you. And I shall ensure that you meet your demise in the most brutal manner imaginable. As Shao Ran rose from his bed, ready to put on his shoes, he suddenly paused. He realized that his mind was connected to an infinite space, vast and boundless. Is this a different dimension? As he concentrated, his phone inexplicably vanished from his grasp, only for him to perceive it existing within this mysterious realm. With another thought, it reappeared in his hand. Shao Ran's jaw dropped in disbelief. Not only have I returned from the apocalypse, but I also possess extraordinary abilities. How much can I store now? His excitement surged. This could resolve a significant issue regarding his secure shelter. There would be no need to allocate a vast area for storage, and the preservation of food would no longer be a concern, alleviating the challenges of design and construction. The emergence of these powers affirms that this is not a mere dream, Shao Ran declared, his resolve unshaken. He gathered his belongings and strode purposefully to the door, flinging it open. What time do you think it is? Do you even know it's morning? His father-in-law, Zheng Yujun, nearly hurled his teacup in anger. Get to the kitchen and wash the dishes. Shao Ran's mind whirled. That morning, he had called in sick to work, informing both his company and Zheng Wan. Yet, upon stepping outside, he encountered Zheng Yujun's wrath, reminiscent of the moments before his death when Zheng Yujun had wielded a knife, ready to dismember him. He glared at Zheng Yujun, a palpable aura of menace surrounding him, yearning to exact retribution on this old wretch. Yet he knew better than to act impulsively. Killing now would come with dire consequences, and to end his life would be far too lenient. Zheng Yujun faltered under Shao Ran's fierce gaze, feeling the weight of his penetrating stare, as if sensing that the next moment could spell his doom. Enraged, he pounded the table. You've gone too far, you little brat. How dare you glare at me? Shao Ran advanced, delivering a resounding slap across the old man's face, fueled by his pent-up rage, sending him crashing onto the table. Just then, his mother-in-law, Lin Mei-ying, emerged with their child, shrieking in horror at the sight, causing the baby to wail in fright. Once, Shao Ran had adored his son above all else, yet now, he felt only anger and disgust. Indeed, the child bore no resemblance to him, but he had never doubted his paternity, attributing the boy's features to his wife's strong genes. The truth was a bitter pill to swallow, for he had unwittingly worn the green hat of infidelity. How absurd, how tragic! An honest man, pushed to the brink, could become a dangerous force. Shao Ran approached, snipping a lock of the child's hair with scissors, a cold smile playing on his lips as he stormed out. Merely 10 minutes later, the phone rang. Shao Ran answered, and Zheng Wan's furious voice erupted from the receiver. Shao Ran, have you lost your mind? How dare you hit my father? Divorce, Shao Ran replied coolly, ignoring her tirade and delivering the words with chilling finality. Chapter 2. Divorce. The other party was momentarily taken aback, and after a considerable pause, Zheng Wan's voice thundered again. Shao Ran, what madness are you indulging in? Just wait. You'll see how I deal with you when I return home from work. Shao Ran remained calm, replying coolly, immediately, right now, we are going to the Civil Affairs Bureau. I have already brought the household register, marriage certificate, and my ID card. Zheng Wan shouted again, but then she composed herself, saying, don't act impulsively. Divorce isn't something you can just decide on. What about Shao Jie? Shao Jie is Shao Ran's son, named Zheng Jie, but of course, he is an illegitimate child. Shao Ran scoffed. How long do you think you can deceive me? Zheng Jie is not my son. He is your love child with Zhang Ziheo. You were so eager to marry me back then because you were already pregnant with Zhang Ziheo's child. How do you know that? Zheng Wan's voice trembled. Don't concern yourself with how I knowed. Go to the Civil Affairs Bureau immediately, or else I will create a scene at the hospital and expose your affair with Zhang Ziheo. Let's see how you both handle that, Shao Ran replied coolly. He was confident that Zheng Wan would give in. Sure enough, Zheng Wan hesitated for a moment before saying, fine, I'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau right now. The rush to marry Shao Ran was primarily to avoid the scandal of an unwed pregnancy, to protect Zhang Ziheo's reputation, and because Shao Ran was too easy to control, effectively becoming a free caretaker for the family. Even this caretaker would hand over all his earnings. Now that their son was already 3 years old, there was no longer any concern about reputation, but it was a pity for Shao Ran, the caretaker who submitted his salary. Upon arriving at the Civil Affairs Bureau via subway, Shao Ran was surprised to find that Zhang Wan had arrived even before him, waiting at the entrance. This woman, aged 27, stood at 160 cm, yet her sweet appearance, with large eyes tied back in a ponytail, could easily score a 70 in looks, though her figure fell short with a modest A cup. She regarded Shao Ran with a mix of suspicion and astonishment, still in shock over how he had uncovered the truth. Unbeknownst to her, he had learned everything from her own lips in a previous life, when she had shared her secrets, thinking he was on the brink of death and would never disclose them. Shao Ran, do not think that divorce is so simple. It involves the division of property, child custody, and many other issues, Zhang Wan stated, still attempting to persuade him otherwise. Once we return home, the family will unite to pressure you. I refuse to believe we cannot convince you. You are merely a slave in our household, now and forever, Shao Ran replied, gazing at her with indifference. I will leave with nothing. The child will remain with you, and I will not pay a single cent in child support. In principle, he could demand a share of their joint assets and, after a paternity test, even seek compensation. However, he had no time to waste on such matters. He needed to finalize the divorce today. Otherwise, if he won the lottery before the divorce was finalized, it would create significant complications. How could Zhang Wan's family possibly forego such a lucrative opportunity? Thus, he chose to forego any claims to joint property. When the apocalypse arrived, he would have plenty of ways to reclaim what was his. Zhang Wan fell silent at his words and reluctantly followed him to the divorce office. After obtaining a number and waiting in line, their turn came quickly as there were not many people that day. The mediator attempted to intervene, saying, "You are both young and have children. The child is not mine." Shao Ran interjected flatly, his expression devoid of emotion. The mediator was taken aback and ceased to offer counsel. "How will the property be divided?" "I leave with nothing," Shao Ran stated. Since he was not the biological father, he had no obligation to support the child. He chose to leave with nothing, avoiding property division, and thus the divorce agreement was swiftly prepared. Half an hour later, Shao Ran exchanged his marriage certificate for a divorce certificate, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. Finally, he had escaped the clutches of the Zhang family. Without even glancing at Zhang Wan, he strode out. Zhang Wan's expression was one of resentment. She had lost a free caretaker and a significant source of financial support. Shao Ran's salary was just over 10,000. "You think you can just run away? Not a chance." She pulled out her phone and dialed the police. "I want to report a crime." "Yes, my father was assaulted." The assailant is Shao Ran, ID number 3205. Exiting the Civil Affairs Bureau, Shao Ran first treated himself to lunch. Later, around 2 in the afternoon, he went to a nearby lottery shop. After reporting a few numbers, he spent 200 yuan to buy 100 tickets for the jackpot of 500 million. This was the maximum amount available for the current draw. The lottery ticket bore a timestamp, and there were surveillance cameras in the Civil Affairs Bureau to confirm his divorce, thus making it clear that this was post-marital property. However, Shao Ran had no money left to his name. He had spent all his pocket money. No matter. He still had Huabei. He booked a hotel on his phone and took a taxi there. Upon arriving, he checked in using his ID, settling into a luxurious hotel that charged 1,500 yuan per night. In the past, he would never have splurged like this. But now, what did money matter? In his room, Shao Ran began to explore the specific uses and characteristics of his alternate space. First, whether an object could be stored within was entirely determined by its size. Due to a limitation of the space door, which measured just 5 by 5 meters, objects could be infinitely long but could not exceed 5 meters in height or width. Weight was irrelevant. He merely needed to touch an object with his hand to store it, using only his thoughts to facilitate the process. Secondly, living beings could not be contained. Shao Ran had attempted to take a fish tank from the lounge on his floor, which housed 5 goldfish. Although he pressed his hand against it, he could not will the tank into the alternate space. However, he could open the space door and place the tank inside, only to find the fish dead upon retrieval. This meant that living beings could either be forcibly shoved inside or would have to willingly submit. If used wisely, this could be a means of revenge. Thirdly, the space door could be opened in any position and direction, but could not extend beyond 2 meters from him and could not be opened within solid objects, such as walls. Furthermore, if he moved, the space door would automatically close, but he could reopen it immediately. Fourthly, once an object was placed into the alternate space, its state would be preserved. For example, if he placed a cup of hot tea inside, it would still be steaming upon retrieval an hour later. If he put in a piece of ice, it would not have melted even slightly after the same duration. This made it perfect for storing food. Most importantly, this state included the object's kinetic energy. In other words, if he threw a brick into the space and released it, it would come out flying. What if he stored an arrow, a bullet, or even falling objects? That would be a devastating weapon. What Shao Ran needed to do now was stockpile ammunition and practice his aim. All he needed was to claim the jackpot tomorrow, buy a house, invest in the stock market, and transform the house into a safe haven. That evening, Shao Ran deliberately chose a high-end restaurant and ordered the most expensive dishes. Spending money felt exhilarating. He reflected on how previously he had managed to survive on just 200 yuan a month, all to save for his wife and son. Yet, what was the result? He was merely a pitiful pawn. Now, he could spend freely, and starting tomorrow, he would be a wealthy man. When disaster struck, he would become the richest person in the world. However, the currency of that wealth would not be cash, but food, clothing, energy, and more. Chapter 3. Claiming the prize. Having been reborn, Shao Ran's mindset had completely transformed. Who wouldn't change after being bound and consumed by their wife's family? Moreover, he had long harbored dissatisfaction with his ex-wife's family. He had merely endured for the sake of his son. But now, discovering that his son was not biologically his, had become the final straw. A man pushed to his limits often becomes more unhinged than others. After his meal, he settled the bill using Huabei, spending over 30,000 yuan. His credit limit was over 80,000, so he would not face any payment issues. However, truth be told, the restaurant was overpriced, and the food was merely average. Upon returning to the hotel, he tuned in just in time for the live broadcast of the double colorball lottery draw. 1 number matched, 2 numbers matched, 3 numbers matched, 0.7 numbers matched. Shao Ran smiled. It seemed his rebirth had not altered history. 500 million was within reach. Oh, after taxes and donations, let us estimate it at 400 million. Shao Ran lay down, tossing and turning, his mind racing with countless thoughts, unable to sleep. Meanwhile, the Zheng family was in chaos. What? That bastard divorced you? Zheng Yujun could hardly believe it, even when his daughter placed the divorce certificate on the table. Hadn't Shao Ran been nothing more than a dog in their family? A dog that was obedient and hardworking, yet now it had bitten back and run away. He could not accept this. Where is that bastard? I will go teach him a lesson, Zheng Gang shouted, only to realize upon returning home that his father had been slapped by his brother-in-law, who was now an ex-brother-in-law. Dad, I want to ride a horse. Zheng Jie chimed in. Your father is dead, Zheng Wan yelled at her son. Yet Zheng Jie clapped his hands in delight, exclaiming, Daddy is dead, Daddy is dead. Because Shao Ran had always pampered him and never spoken harshly. The child had grown accustomed to seeing family members berate Shao Ran. Thus he held no respect for this nominal father. Zheng Wan was utterly exasperated. As long as Shao Ran was home, she could leave their son to him without worry. Now, with a 3-year-old making noise in her ear, she felt murderous rage. Taking a deep breath, she instructed Lin Meiying to watch over her son, saying, I called the police, but they said it's a domestic matter and typically won't intervene unless the injuries are severe. What? Zheng Yujun leaped up. That bastard raised a hand against me, and nothing is being done? Zheng Wan remained silent. Although Zheng Yujun had received a slap, the mark had mostly faded, and such minor injuries were hardly grounds for legal action. Sister, why did you agree to the divorce? Zheng Gang asked. That guy earns over 10,000 a month. Now that he has divorced, our family loses that income. How will I marry a wife? Exactly. You know what conditions your brother-in-law's family has laid out? 30,000 yuan as a bride price, plus a house. Without that bastard's income, your brother will struggle to keep up with the loan payments, Zheng Yujun added. His plan had been to use Shao Ran's salary to help his son repay his loans. Now that this money had vanished, how could he not be anxious? He was more worried about losing that income than about being slapped. Zheng Wan felt increasingly frustrated, as her father and brother only cared about Shao Ran's monthly salary, completely neglecting her future. But hadn't it always been like this? She suppressed her irritation and declared, I will not let him off so easily. I will make Shao Ran pay. Zheng Yujun and Zheng Gang grumbled. But they had no idea where Shao Ran had gone, and no matter how angry or anxious they were, it would change nothing. We must remarry, Zheng Yujun insisted. That bastard not only provides over 10,000 a month, but is also a hard worker. We cannot let him escape. Zheng Wan frowned, saying, I need to get some fresh air. Shao Ran was already aware that his son was not biologically his. How could there be any thought of remarrying? Distraught, she found that Lin Meiying could not handle her grandson, and as her son began to throw a tantrum, she longed to escape from it all. A night passed. Shao Ran felt invigorated and started his day with a hearty meal at a restaurant. How delightful! During the apocalypse, he had been allotted the bare minimum of food and had even saved some for his fake son. In retrospect, it was truly ironic. How could he have been so foolish? Zhang Jie bore no resemblance to him, and his rude demeanor was entirely unreasonable, reflecting traits that were not his ex-wife's either. Therefore, if he wasn't an illegitimate child, how could that be? Shaking his head, he resolved not to dwell on the past. His life was only truly beginning now. After eating, he called for a taxi and headed to the lottery center. Upon learning that Shao Ran was there to claim his prize, the staff promptly escorted him inside. After presenting his ticket and verifying his identity, the moment of truth arrived. A whopping 500 million. After taxes of 100 million and a charitable donation of 200,000, he was left with a staggering 3.98 billion. This was still an immense fortune. Representatives from several banks were present at the lottery center, eager to pitch their services. Shao Ran was indifferent. He had no intention of investing in savings accounts for interest. He casually chose one bank, primarily because it was closest to his apartment. After completing his deposit, the bank manager, with a bright demeanor, invited him out, her intentions unmistakable. Shao Ran assessed her. She was at least a 70 on his scale, where a 60 was considered beautiful. He felt a flicker of interest but ultimately declined. First, he had no time. Second, her interest was clear. She was there to solicit deposits. Shao Ran intended to invest the majority of his funds in the stock market, aiming to multiply his wealth to 20 billion or more within 2 months, followed by a buying spree in the last month. Therefore, preserving his principal was crucial. He merely added the manager, Qian Yulian, on WeChat and departed from the lottery center. Taking a taxi back to Jifu community, he pondered why he would return to his former neighborhood. He intended to buy a house here. Failing to do so would hinder his plans for revenge against Zhang Wan's family when the apocalypse descended. Hailstones falling would not only cause severe injury but also carry deadly toxins. If they drew blood, well, that would be a death sentence. Therefore, Shao Ran was determined not to stray too far, as it might disrupt his vengeance. In the same community, he could navigate through the underground parking garage. Zheng family, how could I allow you to perish so simply? You shall taste the suffering and pain that I have endured. Chapter 4, House Purchase. Sensation. Shao Ran arrived at Ai Wajia, a real estate agency beside the community. Are you looking to buy a house? A male agent approached him eagerly. Shao Ran nodded. I want to buy a house. The agent was elated and immediately elevated his enthusiasm, launching into a detailed presentation. Shao Ran held up his hand, stating, I have my eye on Building 8 in Jifu community. Specifically that villa. Call the seller. I can purchase it at the listed price today, but I need the keys immediately to start renovations. The agent appeared as if he were dreaming. This was like money falling from the sky. Was there any easier business to conduct? All right, I'll call right away, he exclaimed. That villa was listed at 12 million. Even if he only received 0.5 commission, that was still 60,000 yuan, a handsome sum. Fortunately, he was not a woman. Otherwise, he might have suspected that Shao Ran was interested in more than just a property deal. Half an hour later, the seller arrived. Both parties reached an agreement amicably. Shao Ran paid a 1 million yuan deposit. And once the agent finalized the contract, they could proceed to the housing authority for the transaction. The seller happily handed over the keys to Shao Ran, reassured by the provision of identification and the substantial deposit. After all, he had already vacated the property, removing all valuable items, leaving behind merely an empty shell. The furniture was hardly worth much. The agent was overjoyed, and his colleagues envied him immensely. In just over an hour, he had earned 60,000 yuan. What an easy windfall. This transaction quickly became a talking point, spreading not only within real estate circles, but also throughout Jifu community. Gossiping neighbors ensured that the news reached every corner. With the keys in hand, Shao Ran entered the villa. As the previous owner, he could simply swipe his face to gain access to the community. It was utterly hassle-free. Once inside the villa, he began searching online. What was he looking for? Home renovation services. After sifting through reviews and selecting a reputable company, he initiated contact. Hello, a gruff male voice answered. I want to renovate a villa. No problem, came the reply. Shao Ran began to make his demands. First and foremost, the structure must be sturdy enough to withstand even a hammer strike from the outside, ensuring that the house remains unscathed. The windows and similar features must be fitted with adjustable steel plates. The person on the other end was momentarily taken aback. Having dealt with numerous clients, it was the first time they had encountered such renovation requests. However, the customer is kinged, and no problem. How long will it take? Shao Ran inquired. At least 6 months, depending on the size of your villa, came the response. Shao Ran smiled. The construction period cannot exceed 2 months. The other party was stunned again. You are renovating an entire villa? Not constructing a pigsty or doghouse. How could it possibly be done in 2 months? Additional fees will be required, the man stated. Shao Ran grinned. No problem. Wait, I haven't even mentioned how much more. Hold on, I haven't even made a price yet. How can I add more? The other side hurriedly said, Where are you? I will come over immediately for an on-site assessment before giving you a response. All right, Shao Ran nodded and provided the address. While searching for this renovation company, he noticed that the reviews praised their strong capabilities, able to accomplish many seemingly impossible tasks. To completely transform an entire villa into a steel fortress in 2 months was not just challenging. It was nearly an impossible feat were it not for the reputation of Huaxia as a construction powerhouse. Which other country could boast such renovation capabilities? He set down his phone, awaiting the arrival of Jia Yungue, the renovation contractor, while simultaneously opening his stock trading software to begin his operations, drawing from a wealth of memories as he engaged in trading. However, before he could wait for Jia Yungue, someone had already arrived at his doorstep. Zhang Yujun and his wife were at home taking care of their grandson when suddenly, there were urgent knocks at the door, as if the sky were falling. Who is it? Zhang Yujun asked irritably, moving to open the door. Upon opening it, he was greeted by Aunt Lu from Building 7, notoriously chatty. Old Zhang, your family is well hidden? Aunt Lu exclaimed. Zhang Yujun was taken aback by her words. Hidden well? Could it be that news of his daughter's divorce had already spread? Impossible. Who would speak of such a disgraceful matter at home? Ah, it must be that bastard Shao Ran. The old man suddenly realized and erupted in anger. That bastard Shao Ran beat me yesterday and is now spreading rumors about the divorce. Is he trying to drive our family to death? A white-eyed wolf. We took him in, fed him, clothed him, and this is how he repays us. Aunt Lu was momentarily stunned. What? Your daughter and son-in-law are divorced? This just got even more interesting. She laughed and said, So your daughter and son-in-law are divorced? Oh dear, old Zhang, you really are something. She gave a thumbs up. I just heard from a real estate agent that your son-in-law, oh no, Shao Ran, has bought that villa in the neighborhood for 12 million without even haggling, Aunt Lu said, her face brimming with anticipation for the spectacle. What did you say? Zhang Yujun could hardly believe it. Shao Ran? Buying a house? A villa? How could that be possible? That bastard earns only a little over 10,000 a month and hands it all over. He just got divorced yesterday, leaving with nothing. How could he possibly have the money to buy a house, let alone a villa worth 12 million? Really? Just go see for yourself? Aunt Lu was relishing the gossip. Zhang Yujun wavered. Though Aunt Lu was known for her chatter, she wouldn't make such a joke. But Shao Ran buying a villa? That seemed utterly absurd. Old Zhang, your family has struck it rich, buying a villa. Aunt Zhao from upstairs rushed over, her face filled with envy, nearly bursting with excitement. Zhang Yujun felt his body sway slightly, sensing his blood pressure rising, nearly losing his balance. One person might be mistaken, but two? Could they both be wrong? Aunt Lu, eager for more drama, immediately chimed in. Aunt Zhao, you don't know? Old Zhang's daughter and son-in-law are divorced. What? Aunt Zhao exclaimed, eyes wide with shock. Old Zhang, is that true? You just let go of such a wealthy son-in-law? Well, I won't hold back then. Our Jia isn't getting any younger. It's time she finds a boyfriend to settle down. She was not joking. If someone could pull together 12 million to buy a villa, where else could they find such a son-in-law? So what if he was divorced? Who cares about second or third marriages when there's wealth involved? Besides, Shao Ran is quite the catch. Everyone in the neighborhood knows that. Chapter 5. In a frenzy, he storms over. Zhang Yujun was both astonished and anxious. Nonsense, he shouted. That bastard used our money to buy the house. I'm going to confront him. Although he had no idea how Shao Ran came by the money. It was only the morning after he divorced his daughter, and in such a short time, how could he have managed to gather 12 million? Thus, this money must surely be marital property, and they would be entitled to half. Furthermore, as a son-in-law, he belonged to the Zheng family. That 12 million could be rounded up as belonging to the Zheng family. My son is getting married soon and needs the money. The old man suddenly burst forth with surprising energy and dashed out. The two elderly ladies exchanged glances and quickly followed suit. This was juicy gossip, and they couldn't afford to miss it. Zheng Yujun hurriedly made his way to Building 8. It wasn't that he didn't want to run faster. It was simply that he could only move at this speed. Fortunately, it wasn't far, and he quickly arrived at the scene, where many older folks had already gathered around the villa. The villa had a yard, so everyone stood outside the fence, peering in. Old Zheng, upon seeing him, the crowd turned and cast envious glances his way. Old Zheng's family may not have much, but they sure struck gold with such a successful son-in-law. Congratulations, bought a villa, huh? Impressive, you really kept it low-key, the crowd chimed in one after another. Yet not a hint of happiness surfaced in Zheng Youjuan's demeanor. To him, that villa was worth no more than 10 million at most, meaning Shao Ran had overpaid by 2 million. That was 2 million of his family's money. With a grim expression, he approached the entrance and knocked forcefully on the gate. There was a doorbell, but at his age, he was not accustomed to using such things. Bang, 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 he knocked urgently, as if someone had died. Shao Ran initially thought it was Jia Yun Gue arriving, but after checking the surveillance, he couldn't help but chuckle. It turned out to be Zheng Yujun. It seems the news of my villa purchase has spread throughout the neighborhood, Shao Ran mused. He had no intention of hiding. In fact, he wanted Zheng Yujun and his family to feel envy, jealousy, and regret. Such an opportunity to flaunt his success was too good to pass up. He opened the door, crossed the yard, and swung open the gate. Bastard, Zheng Yujun cursed and attempted to step inside, clearly wishing to keep family matters private. However, Shao Ran blocked the entrance, preventing him from entering. The old man became even angrier, pointing a finger at Shao Ran's nose. You're using our family's money to buy this house? And you dare block me from entering? Shao Ran chuckled softly. Old man, don't forget, I divorced your daughter yesterday. The house was purchased today, so it has nothing to do with the Zheng family at all. At this revelation, the crowd immediately began to whisper among themselves, their eyes burning with curiosity. Divorced? How wonderful. If only their daughter could marry Shao Ran, wouldn't their whole family be able to move into that grand villa? Zheng Yujun was not easily intimidated by such words. He sneered. Shao Ran, do you think I'm foolish? You just divorced Jingwan yesterday. How could you possibly have enough money to buy a villa? Therefore, this is marital property, and half of it belongs to the Zheng family. That made sense. The older folks, who had initially entertained some thoughts, suddenly shifted their expressions. Indeed, if it were marital property, then half rightfully belonged to the Zheng family. With the villa's value half to 6 million, did Shao Ran still have any leverage? He did, but it was limited. Shao Ran laughed softly. The division of property is determined by evidence, not by your empty words. Old man, if you have a problem, take me to court, now get lost, or I will call the police for illegal entry into someone else's residence. That could easily result in a detention of half a month, right? The last two remarks were mere bluffs intended to scare Zheng Yujun, who, not knowing any better, took a step back in fear. But would he leave in such a humiliating manner? He was unwilling. He had already convinced himself that this villa belonged to their family and was worth far less than 12 million. So he was determined to claim ownership and renegotiate the contract with the seller. After all, he had only paid a deposit and hadn't gone to the housing authority yet. That wastrel Shao Ran had lost 2 million in a single day. He wanted nothing more than to slap him. Just then, Lin Meiying also rushed over with her grandson. After a brief understanding of the situation, the old woman threw herself on the ground, wailing, "Heartless little beast. Now that you've struck it rich, you abandon your wife and child. You truly are a disgrace." Though this was an attempt to smear Shao Ran's name, it nevertheless aligned with the truth. Indeed, Shao Ran had become wealthy but had also gotten divorced, even abandoning his son. The crowd couldn't help but murmur among themselves, speculating. This was precisely the reaction Shao Ran had been waiting for. He aimed to thoroughly tarnish the Zheng family's reputation, making them the target of scorn in the neighborhood. He coolly stated, "Why did I get divorced? Quite simply, Zheng Wan was already pregnant with another man's child before our marriage. Marrying me was merely a cover-up for her pregnancy, using me as a pawn. Zheng Yujun, Lin Meiying, you have truly raised a daughter devoid of shame, insidious and vicious. During the 4 years I spent in your home, how did you treat me? Did you ever treat me as family? You made me do this and that, burdening me with all the household chores. Even when I returned home at 10 p.m. after working overtime, I was still expected to do the laundry. Ha! Don't lecture me about conscience. You are unworthy. With these words, the crowd erupted in a frenzy. Zheng Wan had actually committed such a morally reprehensible act. Did she not fear the consequences for her son? Ha ha ha, Lin Meiying dared to make a scene in public, but she had just shot herself in the foot. Now, Zheng Wan's reputation was destined to be utterly ruined in the neighborhood. It was the first time Zheng Yujun and his wife had heard of such matters, leaving them momentarily speechless, feeling the stares of their neighbors piercing through them with disdain, wishing for a hole to hide in. This was Huaxia. Becoming pregnant before marriage and then finding an honest man to take the blame, making him a reluctant father, was something that would earn one ridicule. After a while, Lin Meiying was the first to snap back to reality, shrieking, "Nonsense! My daughter is such a good person. How could she possibly do such a thing? Shao Ran, you bastard. Now that you're divorced, you slander my daughter like this?" Zheng Yujun also regained his composure and lunged at Shao Ran. "I'll make you pay for this. Don't fight. I'm still waiting for a disaster to cut you into pieces. If you drop dead from a heart attack right now, how unfortunate would that be?" Shao Ran firmly blocked Zheng Yujun's advance. Even though he was not particularly strong, he had no trouble dealing with a 60-year-old man. "Should I also reveal the name of the man she was with?" Shao Ran coldly remarked. "Zheng Wan has been maintaining an illicit relationship with that man. I have plenty of videos as evidence. The last statement was a fabrication, but how could Zheng Yujun and his wife know? Would they dare to gamble? If Shao Ran were to play the footage in public, they would have to find another neighborhood to live in. How could they face anyone? Let's go." Lin Meiying tugged at her husband, but seeing Zheng Yujun's fierce expression, unwilling to relent, she whispered, "Call back both our son and daughter. We need to discuss a strategy, but Zheng Wan is still at work." Zheng Yujun instinctively replied. Lin Meiying shot him a glare. 12 million. With that amount, why bother working, right? Zheng Yujun promptly followed her out. Chapter 6. Schemes of the Wicked. Once home, Zheng Yujun and his wife eagerly called their son and daughter. "Zheng Gang, come back quickly. Mom, what's with the urgency? I'm about to lose it. Money, several million. Hurry back." "What? All right, I'm on my way." "Zheng Wan, take leave immediately, Dad. I just took leave yesterday. I can't do it again today." "Then just quit that job, do you know? Shao Ran just spent 12 million to buy the villa in our neighborhood." "Yes, that villa. Just think about it. How could he earn 12 million in such a short span since yesterday's divorce? This must be the money he hid during our marriage, and it belongs to us as marital property." "Dad, stop talking. I'm coming back right now." Within half an hour, Zheng Wan and her brother arrived home almost simultaneously. "Mom, you said there's several million. Where's the money?" Zheng Gang's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Our family is actually rich. I'm like an invisible rich second generation." Lin Meiying scoffed. "The money is with Shao Ran, a full 12 million. "What?" Zheng Gang jumped up. "How could that bastard have so much money?" Zheng Yujun raised a hand for silence. "Calm down, everyone sit down. We need to discuss this carefully." "Discuss what?" "We need to go confront that bastard and demand the money." Zheng Gang could hardly contain himself. His girlfriend had been clamoring for a designer bag for new experiences. Wait, with 12 million, why bother with such things? He wanted someone younger, prettier, with a better figure. "Sit down." Zheng Yujun barked at his son. Once Zheng Gang begrudgingly complied, Zheng Yujun turned to Zheng Wan, recounting how he heard Shao Ran bought a house for 12 million, also mentioning Shao Ran's accusations against Zheng Wan. "Zheng Wan, is that bastard telling the truth?" Zheng Yujun asked, scrutinizing her eyes. Zheng Wan was nearly livid. "You actually made a scene with Shao Ran in public? Now, thanks to you, he has the opportunity to expose my scandal, and everyone in the neighborhood is gossiping about me. How am I supposed to show my face around here now? You incompetent teammates. When such an important matter arose, why didn't you call me back first, and instead went to create a ruckus? Now look, you're happy, satisfied. But what good was anger?" Zheng Wan hesitated for a moment before nodding. "It's true. Shao Jie is not his child." She feared that if she denied it, Shao Ran would indeed bring forth the alleged videos, leaving her utterly ruined. "How could you be so careless?" Zheng Yujun scolded. "You let that bastard catch a whiff of the truth and even obtain evidence." He didn't blame his daughter for her disgraceful actions, but rather lamented Zheng Wan's lack of caution, allowing Shao Ran to see through her. Clearly, they were all cut from the same cloth. Lin Meiying showed no shame either. After all, she had never respected Shao Ran as a son and law at it was just that as long as the scandal stayed within the family, it was bearable. Now that it was out, she feared losing face. Zheng Gang was even less concerned, saying, "Whether Shao Jia is that bastard's biological son or not, he married my sister. That 12 million is my sister's. It's ours. He can't just swallow it all because they divorced." Zheng Wan pressed her hands down. "Everyone, don't act impulsively, and don't do anything rash. I need to make a phone call for advice. I'll say it again. Until I finish this call, you all stay in your rooms. Otherwise, I won't go after that money." Though Zheng Yujun and the others were reluctant, they had no choice but to comply. After all, Zheng Wan was still his wife. Oh, ex-wife. If Zheng Wan were to give up on that money, how could they possibly get their hands on it? But who was Zheng Wan calling? That man? Zheng Wan entered her room and dialed a number. "I was still at work. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up," said the voice on the other end, a man. Indeed, he was Zhang Zihao, the illicit lover of Zheng Wan, and also a doctor in her department. At the mere age of 33, he was already poised for promotion to deputy director, a testament to his promising future. "Please, let me finish." Zheng Wan gritted her teeth and laid bare the situation regarding Shao Ran. After a moment of contemplation, Zhang Zihao replied, "Shao Ran claims to have our video. He must be trying to deceive you. We have always been exceptionally cautious, and Shao Ran would never set foot in the hospital. Therefore, he undoubtedly lacks any evidence. The only flaw lies with Shao Jia, the son. A simple DNA test will reveal whose offspring he truly is. 12 million. Zhang Zihao's heart quivered at the thought. His salary, combined with the red envelopes he received, would certainly amount to over 10 million throughout his lifetime. However, to produce 12 million at this very moment was utterly impossible, not even within the next 20 years. Thus, avarice began to stir within him. If Shao Ran could so easily produce 12 million without any negotiation, it indicated he possessed far greater wealth than that. He analyzed calmly, "Although I am unaware of the source of his funds, this must have been acquired during your marriage. Otherwise, he wouldn't have suddenly come into such a large sum within less than 24 hours. Winning the lottery, perhaps? Anyone with a modicum of sense knows that lottery wins are exceedingly rare. It is improbable for anyone to strike it rich." Zheng Wan contemplated mentioning lottery winnings, but Zhang Zihao's analysis quickly dispelled that notion. Indeed, who among her acquaintances had ever won the lottery? No one. Furthermore, Shao Ran apparently possessed more than just 12 million. Who would invest all their money into a property without haggling? Clearly, his financial resources far exceeded that amount, allowing him to afford such extravagance without a second thought. Therefore, your first course of action should be to file a lawsuit against Shao Ran for concealing marital assets, thereby declaring the previous divorce agreement invalid and redistributing the property. Zhang Zihao assumed the role of a cunning strategist. Zheng Wan nodded vigorously. She had merely graduated from a nursing school, while Zhang Zihao was a master's graduate from a prestigious institution. Having read extensively, it was no surprise he had numerous ideas and held the upper hand. The commotion caused by Zheng Yujun and Lin Meiying could only be described as embarrassing. What benefits could they possibly gain? "Just look at this approach, Zihao. You are truly brilliant," she exclaimed earnestly. Zhang Zihao chuckled. "You must consult a lawyer immediately. Do not fear the expenses. If you win this case, you shall never have to work again and can luxuriate at home as a wealthy lady." "Yes, yes." Zheng Wan nodded repeatedly. "Have the lawyer draft the complaint. All you need to do is sign it." Zhang Zihao continued offering guidance, "And make sure your parents and brother refrain from causing any unnecessary trouble. Remember, we are in an era governed by law. Resorting to tears and tantrums will only render you a laughingstock." Zheng Wan nodded vigorously. "Yes, yes, yes." After ending the call, she stepped out to relay to her family what Zhang Zihao had advised. Naturally, she would not disclose that it was all Zhang Zihao's counsel. Instead, she portrayed it as a collective decision. When they heard Zheng Wan assert that Shao Ran's funds exceeded 12 million, the greed on Zheng Yojuan's face was unmistakable. "We're going to be rich." Zheng Wan urged them to avoid any further disturbances before promptly heading out to find a lawyer. Shao Ran had erred in showing off too soon, revealing his wealth. Chapter 7. The renovation plan after a brief wait. Jia Yungue finally arrived. The two exchanged pleasantries, but Jia Yungue couldn't contain himself and stood up to inspect the house. He had brought minimal tools, merely a measuring pin to make rough calculations. As they hadn't yet discussed pricing, the villa comprised 3 floors above ground and 1 basement, totaling 600 square meters, with an outdoor area that wouldn't require renovation. After surveying, Jia Yungue returned to the ground floor living room to discuss pricing with Shao Ran. If we aim to complete this in 2 months, time is of the essence, and thus the labor cost will be quite high. I'll need to arrange for workers to toil around the clock. Shao Ran smiled. Just give me a number. 80 million, Jia Yungue announced, feeling a twinge of embarrassment after stating the figure. This villa was only worth around 10 million, yet he proposed a renovation cost of 80 million. Only a fool would accept such terms. However, given the 2-month time frame, 80 million was a reasonable estimate. He had not made an outrageous demand. Shao Ran pondered for a moment. Noticing his hesitation, Jia Yungue quickly added, I assure you, I'm not overcharging. Given your tight schedule, I can't lower the price much. I need to make some profit as well. If you find it too expensive, we can extend the timeline. If you choose a 6-month duration, I can reduce the cost by about 10 million. Yet, this still far exceeded the villa's value. Shao Ran pressed, I'm not concerned about the price. I just want to know if 80 million will meet my requirements. Of course, Jia Yungue replied confidently, I've been in the renovation business for many years. I know what I'm talking about. With a renovation fee of 80 million for a 600 square meter villa, that averages out to 140,000 per square meter. Isn't that a bit excessive? Indeed, when you put it that way, it does seem quite high, Shao Ran conceded. All right, let us sign the contract. Really? We're signing just like that? You're not going to haggle? Jia Yungue was taken aback. He had never encountered such a homeowner who first complained about the low renovation cost and then accepted it without negotiation. What a remarkable character, Shao Ran chuckled. What I need is for you to deliver quality work that meets my standards. Rest assured, I will deliver on my promises, Jia Yungue replied, full of confidence. All right, let us proceed with the contract. However, let me make one thing clear. If the work fails to meet my standards upon inspection, I want to be easy to deal with, and I will pursue legal action for the full 80 million. Agreed, Jia Yungue responded. By the way, could you show me the original property deed, along with a copy? Shao Ran shook his head. I just bought the house today. The deed hasn't been issued yet. However, I can provide you with a 5 million deposit to get started on the renovation plan. Once that runs out, I'll transfer the remaining amount if my delay prevents you from completing the renovation on time. I'll pay the full 80 million regardless. Jia Yungue stared at him in disbelief, as if he were witnessing a phenomenon. You wealthy individuals truly are extraordinary. Jia Yungue left, undoubtedly in high spirits. An 80 million contract meant he could pocket a few million from it. Although Shao Ran spent money freely, he felt no remorse. His stock investments, while not guaranteeing a daily 10 return, would certainly exceed 5, meaning the 3.5 billion he invested would grow to 3 billion or even more within 2 months. However, whether it became 3 billion or 5 billion made little difference to Shao Ran. The resources he had acquired were sufficient to last several lifetimes. 3 months later, when everyone's wealth would return to zero, it would hold no significance. He possessed a total of 398 million, of which 350 million was invested in the stock market. 1 million had been allocated for the house, and 5 million for renovation, leaving him with 43 million, of which 11 million would soon be used for the remaining balance on the house. Although the renovation required 75 million, with a 2-month timeline, he could gradually extract funds from the stock market without haste. Shao Ran was busy. He sought out a real estate agent, but this time it was not for purchasing but for renting. With the villa undergoing renovations for 2 months, would he really spend every night in a hotel? It wasn't that he couldn't afford it. Rather, staying in a hotel would be inconvenient for receiving deliveries. He had numerous items to purchase online. Additionally, Shao Ran planned to rent a warehouse. Just as he stepped outside, his phone rang. Upon checking, he saw it was his company calling, his immediate superior, Lu Qing. Casually answering, he barely uttered a greeting before Lu Qing roared, Shao Ran, do you have cancer? If you're not dead, hurry back to work, or you can consider yourself fired. Fine, I resign, Shao Ran replied calmly. He had much to occupy him. There was no time for work. Was he really going to play the fool? The apocalypse was approaching. What was the point of pretending to be busy when he was swamped with preparations? He decisively hung up the phone. Once again, he visited I Love My Home, and as soon as he appeared, the mail agent who had previously conducted business with him hurried over, asking, Brother, is there a problem? I need to rent a place, Shao Ran stated. Huh? The mail agent stared at him in confusion. Didn't you just buy a villa? You already have the keys. You could move in right away. Why are you looking to rent? Shao Ran smiled. I need to renovate that villa, so I'm looking for a decent rental, preferably spacious, clean, and newly renovated. Oh, you're renovating, I see? Anyone willing to spend 12 million on a villa wouldn't settle for an old house. They would want to renovate it themselves. No problem, the male agent quickly replied. I have several options available. Let me take you to see them. Yes, they should be in Jufu community, Shao Ran noted. Absolutely. 2 hours later, Shao Ran finalized a short-term rental contract with the landlord for 2 months at a monthly rate of 12,000. Though somewhat pricey, the house was genuinely spacious, newly decorated, and luxurious. It was also ready for immediate occupancy. Shao Ran only needed to buy some bedding. Good. Another task accomplished. Shao Ran had an overwhelming number of items to purchase. However, a significant amount of his money remained in the stock market, and he had yet to reach his goal of tenfold returns, so he could only make small purchases for the time being. He began compiling a list of essential items to buy, some of which would take considerable time to prepare, necessitating early orders. As he was listing items, his phone rang again. Glancing at the screen, he saw it was his wife. I forgot to change the contact name. Shao Ran answered, knowing the retribution against the Zheng family had commenced. How could he ignore Zheng Wan's call? Hello. Chapter 8. Hiring a lawyer. Shao Ran. I have already hired a lawyer and filed a lawsuit in court, seeking to reallocate our marital assets. Give me an address to ensure the court summons reaches you. Zheng Wan's voice was cold and unfeeling. So the lawsuit has indeed been filed. Shao Ran replied, unperturbed, a faint smile gracing his lips. Please wait a moment. I need to find a lawyer myself. From now on, any matters should be handled through my attorney. With that, he abruptly hung up. It was time to play with the Zheng family a little. Shao Ran had no intention of wasting time in court. He quickly searched for the best divorce lawyer in Sioux City and made his way there. By sheer coincidence, the esteemed lawyer He Qian was available. Mr. Shao, are you aware of our fee structure? The receptionist kindly inquired. Yes, 3,000 per hour. Shao Ran nodded. Indeed, it was steep. The receptionist couldn't help but gasp internally. Based on Shao Ran's attire, she never would have guessed he was wealthy. She promptly made a call, and once finished, she slightly bowed to Shao Ran. Mr. Shao, please follow me. She led him into an office, knocked on the door, and announced, Mr. Shao has arrived. He Qian, roughly in his 40s, was clad in a suit and glasses. He glanced at Shao Ran with piercing eyes, exuding an aura of someone who could see through to the very core of a person. Please, take a seat, he invited. Shao Ran sat down, and the receptionist asked, Mr. Shao, would you like something to drink? No, thank you, Shao Ran replied with a smile. I should be leaving shortly. All right. The receptionist exited. Mr. Shao seems to be in a hurry, so let us get started, He Qian said. Shao Ran nodded. I divorced my ex-wife yesterday, but after the divorce, I won the lottery. Now my ex-wife is suing me for concealing marital assets and wants to redistribute the marital property. He spoke with a hint of sarcasm. He Qian chuckled. The timing of your divorce and your lottery win should provide clear timestamps. I believe you might not even need a lawyer. Simply submit the evidence, and this case is yours to win. Shao Ran shook his head. I initially intended to let it go, but my ex-wife is being so aggressive that I can't just stand by. He Qian's interest peaked. What are your plans? My ex-wife was involved with someone before our marriage and is pregnant, so the child is not mine. Here's the child's hair, and here's mine. We can conduct a paternity test, Shao Ran stated nonchalantly, as if recounting someone else's tale. When I signed the divorce agreement, I opted for a clean break. Now, I not only seek an equal share of the marital assets, but also demand compensation for emotional distress. He Qian pondered for a moment and cautioned. I must advise you, Mr. Shao, my fees are quite high enough that the compensation you receive from your ex-wife may not cover my legal fees. That's fine. My lottery winnings are substantial, so I'm not concerned about the cost, Shao Ran replied with a smile. Curiosity piqued, He Qian asked, how much did you win? 500 million. He Qian, who was sipping tea, suddenly spewed it all out. That's what you call substantial. He had never earned such an amount in his lifetime, despite his high fees. Shao Ran paid him no mind and continued. I sought out your firm because I know you excel in divorce cases. And what I desire is for my ex-wife's family to pay the price. I've been a son-in-law for 4 years, surrendering my entire salary, living on a mere 200 for pocket money each month. I've endured all this for the sake of my son. Now that I've discovered my son is not mine, this honest man is ready to explode. He Qian nodded, understanding his sentiment. Yet, with such righteous indignation, why opt for a clean break only to win the lottery that same afternoon? It seemed almost as if Shao Ran anticipated winning, hastily opting for a clean break to monopolize the prize. He chuckled at the thought. If Shao Ran had someone at the lottery center and could know the winning numbers in advance, how terrifying would that power be? How could he have been deceived by a woman for 4 years? He was overthinking it. Very well, Mr. Shao. Do you have the original lottery ticket with you? I do, and I'm prepared, Shao Ran replied. Thus, they began the formalities. He Qian believed this was akin to an easy payday. Even a mediocre lawyer could win such a case. The key difference lay in how much marital property and emotional damages could be recovered for Shao Ran, while his fees would naturally increase with the time taken for the case. Shao Ran had no reservations, merely presenting his requests. First, I want the litigation period to be as long as possible, but not exceeding 3 months. Second, the compensation should be maximized, and I intend to donate this money to Project Hope. You'd best inform the judge to prevent any thoughts of me attempting to extort funds. The longer the litigation dragged on, the more discomfort Zhang Wan's family would endure. However, if it exceeded 3 months, they wouldn't have to compensate him at all. Thus, he wanted them to experience the pain of losing their wealth. He Qian found Shao Ran's request peculiar. He had never heard of anyone wishing to prolong a litigation period. But it mattered little. He hardly needed to prepare for this case. The longer the lawsuit took, the more income he would generate. So why not? Shao Ran provided He Qian with Zhang Wan's contact information, after which He Qian would handle negotiations with her. He also assigned a trainee lawyer to Shao Ran, ensuring he was kept updated on the case's progress. This in turn was a stunning beauty. Standing at 170 cm, with an almost perfect score of 90 in looks, her figure was exceptional, accentuated by a pair of black-framed glasses that added to her allure. Mr. Shao, I'm Loom. If you wish to know about the case's progress, feel free to ask me anytime, she said while escorting Shao Ran to the door of the law firm, her striking appearance turning heads as she walked by understood. Shao Ran nodded slightly. He had already added Lu Mei on WeChat and had her phone number as well. Not just for the lawsuit. You can reach out to me for anything, Lu Mei added. But sensing the potential ambiguity of her words, she quickly clarified, for legal matters. Her attempt at clarification only seemed to further suggest a hidden meaning, leaving Shao Ran uncertain whether she had genuinely misspoken or was intentionally being suggestive. Chapter 9. Confrontation. He Qian promptly called Zheng Wan. This Ms. Zheng Wan. I am Mr. Shao Ran's legal representative. May I ask who your attorney is? Oh, Han Tao, I see. Thank you for the information. I will liaise with lawyer Han, and he will keep you informed of any developments. He hung up and dialed another number. Hello, this is He Qian. Yes, I represent Shao Ran now, and I assure you, you are destined to lose this case. I'm not calling to boast, but rather to formally propose a reallocation of the marital assets. What are the grounds for our lawsuit, you ask? Quite simple. Shao Ran has discovered that Zhang Jie is not his biological son. Thus, he demands a reassessment of the asset division and seeks compensation for emotional distress. The other party was evidently taken aback. Zhang Wan had not mentioned Zhang Jie, catching him off guard. What do lawyers fear most? When a client conceals a secret, leaving the opposing counsel informed, and then springing a surprise upon them. It is indeed a perilous situation. All right, you should investigate this further, He Qian chuckled, ending the call. For him, this lawsuit was exceptionally easy, akin to an open book exam. Even an intern lawyer would struggle to lose. He dialed another number. Xiao Zhang, write a brief piece. Orthopedic surgeon Zhang Ziheo from the North District of the Municipal Hospital is having an affair with nurse Zheng Wan, and they have a child together. That's the main line. Feel free to elaborate and stir up some online buzz to BY tonight. I want the entire orthopedic department in the North District to be aware. After hanging up, he smiled faintly, ceasing his calls. Shao Ran's aim was to ruin Zhang Wan's reputation. As a man, he naturally sided with Shao Ran, but as the client's attorney, he was even more obliged to do so. Infidelity and disgrace. She deserved to be nailed to the pillar of shame. Not long after Zhang Wan set down her phone, it began to ring. She glanced at the screen and saw it was her attorney, swiftly answering. Zhang Wan, how much have you concealed from me? The voice on the other end demanded. Do you realize how much this puts me at a disadvantage? Zhang Wan was momentarily taken aback, stammering, what do you mean? Zhang Jie is not Shao Ran's son. Is he? Han Tao pressed. Zhang Wan took a deep breath, mentally prepared for this revelation. Shao Jie is indeed not Shao Ran's son, but this has nothing to do with concealing marital assets, Zheng Wan. I just received a call from your ex-husband's attorney. Do you know who that is? He Qian, the best divorce lawyer in Sioux City. In his presence, I am merely an inconsequential character. He has never lost a divorce case, Han Tao asserted. Zheng Wan scoffed. Never lost doesn't mean he can't lose. Even if he has never lost before, this time he will. All right, let us set that aside for now, Han Tao continued. Shao Ran is preparing to sue, claiming that Zheng Jie is not his biological son and demanding a reassessment of the marital assets, along with compensation for emotional distress. Zheng Wan nearly laughed in disbelief. Contemplating, well, this works out perfectly. Everyone's request is a reassessment of the marital assets. Lawyer Han, have you found out how much Shao Ran has concealed in marital assets? Not yet, don't rush. I need a court-issued document to request the bank to investigate Shao Ran's personal assets. At least by tomorrow, Han Tao replied. All right, I await your good news. Zheng Wan hung up. Regardless of her moral failings, Shao Ran's wealth was still marital property, and no matter how many lawyers he hired, he would still have to obediently surrender half of what was in his bank account. Shao Ran glanced at the time. It was already past 4 in the afternoon. He continued compiling his shopping list. After working until evening, he stretched and stepped out, ready to have dinner as he entered the elevator. A middle-aged woman joined him on the second floor. Upon seeing him, her eyes lit up as she eagerly promoted her daughter, extolling her beauty and gentleness, claiming she would be the perfect choice for a wife. Shao Ran felt overwhelmed. Finally reaching the first floor, he quickly dashed out, while the woman yelled after him, Shao Ran, you haven't noted down my daughter's phone number yet. Phew. After running a good distance, Shao Ran finally exhaled in relief. The woman was quite persistent. But that was merely a distraction for now. In 3 months, the concerns would shift from marriage to food and clean water. Coincidentally, as Shao Ran reached the entrance of the community, he spotted Zhang Yujun's family approaching. When Zheng Jie saw him, he clapped his hands and pointed, exclaiming, the bastard! The bastard is here. In just one day, his father had become a bastard. Clearly, this was the result of Zhang Yujun's upbringing. Zhang Yujun immediately marched over, pointing a finger at Shao Ran's nose. Bastard, let me tell you. You won't get away with a single cent of our family's assets. Furthermore, hiding marital assets in large amounts is a criminal offense. Shao Ran chuckled. Do you think I'm ignorant of the law? Just a moment, let me consult my lawyer. He pulled out his phone and, in front of Zhang Yujun, called Lu Mei. Hello, Lawyer Lu. Someone just told me that hiding marital assets is a criminal offense. Is that true? Oh, not at all. It's nothing to worry about, just a consultation. Shao Ran replied before hanging up, calmly addressing Zhang Yujun. I just asked my lawyer. You're the one threatening me. Allow me to remind you. Threats can lead to criminal charges. You're too arrogant, too smug. Zhang Yujun trembled with rage. Shao Ran had always been submissive during his 4 years in their household, so why was he suddenly so brazen? Bastard, how dare you bully my dad? Zhang Gang charged forward, rolling up his sleeves, ready to fight. Shao Ran didn't even glance at him. Zhang Gang was merely a frivolous spendthrift, not worth his attention. Zhang Wan, being the more rational one, approached and said, Shao Ran, don't be too pleased with yourself. You may feel triumphant now, but once it's proven that your current wealth constitutes marital property, and that's evident, you'll have to hand over half, whether you like it or not. Shao Ran laughed and shook his head. Are you all particularly curious about how much money I actually possess? This immediately piqued the interest of the Zheng family, their eyes lighting up with anticipation as they wondered how much they could claim. Guess, Shao Ran teased, inciting frustration among them. Chapter 10, Dining, Tension in the Air. The Zheng family fumed for a while before reluctantly leaving. They opted to dine out. Typically, Lin Meiying would buy groceries, waiting for Shao Ran to return home to cook, and the next day, they would eat leftovers. However, with the absence of a cook, Lin Meiying refused to enter the kitchen. And with money coming in, they decided to treat themselves by dining out. They splurged at Due Tower, where the average cost per person was around 150 yuan, not a small sum. Shao Ran had been following behind them the whole way. Although he had dealt them heavy blows in the last few days, he couldn't shake off the pain of being dismembered by the Zheng family. Time to provoke them a little further. He called Lu Mei again. Lawyer Lu, would you care to join me for a meal? Yes, right now. All right, I'll send you the location. After hanging up, he sent Lu Mei the address of Due Tower. She quickly replied, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Shao Ran entered Due Tower and soon found a table for himself on the second floor. Opting for a table outside, he scanned the menu, ordering 8 dishes, all notably expensive, and then waited. Naturally, Zhang Yujun's family noticed him, feeling quite irked. We came here to eat. And you're here too. If it's just coincidence, who would believe that? How infuriating. Suddenly, Zhang Wan's phone rang. It was her colleague Xiao Lu, her closest companion. Upon answering, Xiao Lu urgently said, Zhang Wan, you need to check the Sioux City Forum right away. their essay post claiming you and Dr. Zhang have an inappropriate relationship, and that Xiao Jie is his child. The post is gaining a lot of traction. What? Zheng Wan's expression shifted dramatically. After a brief conversation with Xiao Lu, she hung up and opened the forum to investigate. Sure enough, aside from the pin post, there was a sensational thread. Orthopedic surgeon Zhang and nurse Xing maintain a long-term illicit relationship and have a child together. The post was trending, with responses exceeding 1,000. She nearly fainted but forced herself to calm down. Upon reviewing the details, she sighed in relief. Aside from the title, everything else was fabricated. Claims of them being intimate in the changing room were utterly ludicrous. They weren't foolish enough to engage in such behavior there. The pressing question was who had disseminated this information. Her gaze instinctively shifted to Shao Ran. Could anyone else have done this? She was taken aback. Throughout their 4 years of marriage, he had always been submissive, obedient to her every whim. It was all an act. He was not a sheep, but rather a wolf in sheep-esque clothing, concealing marital assets and stabbing her in the back. What a lowly character. So what if I had an affair and bore a child? Xiao Jie called you dad for 3 years, yet refers to his biological father as uncle. Do you know how wrong Zhang Zihao feels? Zheng Wan's eyes glinted with resentment, but she was resolved. If worst came to worst, she would resign. After all, she could secure at least 6 million yuan from Shao Ran, ensuring her future was worry-free. Storming over to Shao Ran's table, she declared fiercely, Shao Ran, I never imagined you could be such a despicable person. Humph. Do you think these underhanded tactics will bring me down? Let me tell you. Regardless, our 4 years of marriage are genuine, and the marital assets must be divided equally. Shao Ran nodded. You make a compelling point. Marital assets should indeed be divided equally. I completely agree. I hope you remember this and don't change your mind when we're in court. I recorded what you just said, he added, and you really needn't worry about your reputation. I just wonder how much that Dr. Zhang cares about it. I've heard he is on the cusp of being promoted to deputy director. Such matters could impact his career, don't you think? This information wasn't from Zheng Wan, but rather something Lu Mei had previously shared with him. Zheng Wan was taken aback. Indeed, she could resign, but what about Zhang Zihao? This was a critical juncture in his career. Worry crept in. She had chosen to bear the child rather than terminate the pregnancy, indicating her genuine feelings for Zhang Zihao. As soon as Shao Ran mentioned that this situation could affect Zhang Zihao's future, she couldn't help but feel anxious. You despicable person, she seethed. Once the court reaches a verdict and you receive a hefty sum, I will ensure you pay for all of this with that. She stormed back. Shao Ran shook his head. Villains never reflect on their actions. It was she who had placed the green hat on her own head. No, she had even dug a pit for him from the start, tricking him into being a surrogate father for 3 years, toiling for the Zhang family for 4 years, and even seizing all his income. Yet she never mentioned any of that. Instead, she worried about her own disgrace and how it would affect Zhang Zihao's future. How laughable. What about him? He was the true victim. Nevertheless, Shao Ran held no illusions that Zheng Wan or her family would ever reflect on their actions. He vowed that for the next 3 months, he would ensure they had no peaceful days, and once the calamity struck, he would return all the pain they had caused him, doubled. After a while, a stunningly beautiful woman ascended to the 2nd floor, illuminating the space around her. What a gorgeous lady! Zheng Gang, sitting directly across from the staircase, was immediately transfixed. Once I have money, I must pursue this woman. To his dismay, the beautiful woman was heading straight for Shao Ran. No way! It can't be! He cursed under his breath. He was envious beyond measure. How could such a stunning beauty with a figure so alluring sit across from Shao Ran? Why him? Why not him? This bastard, who had been a docile dog in the household for 4 years, now had the audacity to sit with such a goddess, while he was stuck with a girlfriend who was nothing to write home about and worked in a foot massage parlor, an unseemly one at that. Zhang Wan heard the commotion, turned her head, and her expression darkened. Just 1 day post-divorce, and he had already found someone new. Impossible. Clearly, Shao Ran had someone on the side. Otherwise, how could he transition so seamlessly? How outrageous! How dare he blame her for infidelity when he was guilty of the same? With that, she stood up, striding towards Shao Ran's table. Chapter 11. Astounding. 400 million in revenue. Zheng Wan looked down at Shao Ran, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Shao Ran, do you have the audacity to criticize me? Who is she? Your mistress. Ms. Zheng, is it? Lu Mei replied sternly. With that statement, I could sue you for defamation. However, I won't stoop to your level. But let me assure you, if you utter such irresponsible words again, I won't let it slide. Shao Ran chuckled. This is lawyer Lu Mei, my attorney. Zheng Wan was taken aback. Shao Ran's lawyer wasn't he supposed to be? He Qian. Yes, He Qian was not this delicate woman. Goodness, how could her chest be so ample? Was it augmented? And that rear end, so round and perky, surely enhanced as well. She thought maliciously. However, Lu Mei exuded competence and an air of authority, so it was evident she was indeed a lawyer. Perhaps she was from a different firm since He Qian was the best divorce lawyer in Sioux City. It was entirely plausible they had sent a junior lawyer to handle Shao Ran's case. Caught off guard, she hadn't considered that Lu Mei could actually be a lawyer. Embarrassment washed over her. She wished she could disappear into the ground. But Shao Ran had obviously come with her. Why not arrange for a meal elsewhere? This was clearly meant to provoke her, to undermine her confidence. Shao Ran, you can enjoy your moment of bravado now, but tomorrow I will instruct my lawyer to file a motion with the court to freeze your assets, preventing you from squandering the marital property, Zhang Wan coldly declared, a strategy she had learned from her attorney and Zhang Zihao. You're so confident, aren't you? Just because you say you'll freeze my assets? Does that mean it will happen? The court isn't your personal playground, Shao Ran replied with a laugh. Let us wait and see. Fuming, Zhang Wan returned to her seat. Dinner hadn't even begun. Yet she felt as if she had eaten her fill of anger. Shao Ran chuckled, though his gaze remained icy towards the Zhang family. Lu Mei observed this interaction and couldn't help but think that Shao Ran must have endured immense suffering at the hands of the Zhangs. Otherwise, why would he be so intent on antagonizing them? He had no desire for compensation. He intended to donate it all, including the additional legal fees. It was clear he harbored a deep-seated hatred for the Zhang family, one that drove him to inflict financial pain upon them for his own satisfaction. She smiled sweetly, deliberately shifting her chair closer to Shao Ran. This woman is clever. Shao Ran understood the unspoken cue and inched closer as well. The two appeared to be whispering intimately, yet in reality, they spoke of nothing of significance, merely exchanging thoughts for the sake of showing Zheng Wan. Sure enough, Zheng Wan watched in disbelief, nearly rushing back to confront them. Are you two really maintaining a relationship as client and lawyer? Must you sit so close? She retorted, her voice filled with indignation. Mom, Dad, please eat. I shall take my leave, she huffed, rising from her seat and grabbing her bag. Truly, she was filled with frustration. Upon seeing Zheng Wan leave, Shao Ran chuckled, straightening his posture and turning to Lu Mei. Thank you. Thank for what? Lu Mei feigned ignorance. Come, eat, Shao Ran replied. After their meal, Shao Ran hailed a cab for Lu Mei and watched her depart before heading back to his apartment. This woman is quite intriguing, beautiful, perceptive, and with a commanding presence. Alas, I find myself devoid of the inclination to pursue romance. Would a woman of Lu Mei's caliber ever consider being my lover? Unlikely. However, when the apocalypse descends, things may change. At that time, a mere meal could drive one to madness. Well, I shall leave that for another day. Shao Ran certainly has no time to chase after women now. I still need to work on my fitness. The apocalypse is upon us, with hail falling relentlessly and the sun obscured. While I cannot predict how long this will last, I must prepare for a life devoid of sunlight, ensuring that my body remains robust and resilient against illness. Additionally, I require weaponry. Once the apocalypse begins, I shall make the Zhang family regret their actions. They must understand that I possess a significant stockpile of food. Yet, once they realize they cannot obtain provisions from me, they will surely leak this information and incite the entire community to attack me. Such a scenario is inevitable. My memories from a past life have proven this. Therefore, I need a vast arsenal, preferably firearms. Acquiring guns is impossible. However, I could do so abroad. I am not lacking in funds, but foreign lands can be perilous, where firearms are easily obtained. Would it be surprising if I were to fall victim to a black market scheme? Establishing a safe house and stockpiling supplies necessitates a focus on stability, so should I venture abroad? Not likely. Nevertheless, I can utilize a shooting range, directly opening a spatial portal at the firearm's muzzle, capturing the bullets as they are fired. When needed, with a mere thought, I can release the bullets, capable of single shots or sweeping fire, all without the sound of a gunshot. As long as I invest a considerable sum, I can procure ample ammunition, all ready for deployment. Lost in thought, he returned home. Around 10 o'clock, Lu Mei sent a message, simply wishing him good night. In contrast, when he pursued Jingwan, he would typically send 10 messages before receiving a single reply, often with a delay of over half an hour. Yet now, the roles had completely reversed. Why? Money truly is a powerful force, remarkably effective. In the face of nearly 400 million in wealth, even a goddess like Lu Mei willingly wished him good night. Shao Ran smiled, taking 10 minutes to respond. Good night. He vowed never again to play the sycophant. Instead, he would become the reaper of the goddess's affections. A night passed. Zhang Wan could hardly sleep, her mind consumed by the figure of 12 million, the arrogant demeanor of Shao Ran before her, and the intimate scenes of Lu Mei and Shao Ran together. Finally, enduring until 9 o'clock, she promptly called Han Tao, urging him to investigate